Fairly recently, I played and platinumed both Nier games with the intention of figuring out which was the harder platinum. Well, that and because my friend's been telling me to play them for the last how many ever years? Thanks man, they were pretty good, thanks for the recommendation. Now, before getting into the video proper, I would like to address something quite important. Nier AutoMATA has a trophy shop where you can spend in-game money to unlock the trophies without actually doing the requirements. This is what we in the business call lame, and if you know anyone that did this, it's fine to dislike them personally and not invite them to your birthday party. So yeah, I did not buy any trophies because that's cheating and I'm 100% legitimate over here. I guess the easiest place to start for this video is with the story trophies. I'm not going to go in on all the spoilers and going through the plot and anything because that's not my shtick. Each game has 5 main endings. Now the tricky part is that this doesn't mean there's 5 full playthroughs you've got to do. Let's start with AutoMATA, which is 2 playthroughs that are very similar, and then a 3rd playthrough which is basically entirely new and different. After that you've got 2 more endings which you can get easily just by reloading a checkpoint and just making a different choice. Replicant is a bit more confusing. So you do 1 playthrough, and then after that you do the second half of the game 2 more times for 2 more endings, bringing it up to 3. And then you do the last area, dungeon again for the 4th ending, providing you saved before you did the 3rd ending. Then, after that, you restart the game again, do the first bit of the game again. It's not exactly half, it's a bit under half, but you do the first chunk of the game again, and after that it switches to a new section, which is quite short, and after you do that you get the 5th ending. Does that all make sense? Of course it does. You were paying very much attention and this wasn't a second monitor job. You were paying a lot of attention. I'm kind of torn on which game I think is harder overall, because AutoMATA I think is the harder game, especially in Route C. Like, the jump in difficulty is a bit unfair at times. Unless of course you're on easy mode, which is boring, and you know, honestly, didn't like easy mode, switched off it really quick, because it's too easy. But Replicant, that makes you replay more of the game and probably takes longer. I don't remember the exact time they each take. In my head it takes longer. Moving on from the story trophies, we have other trophies. These are the ones that the casual players probably will not end up getting, at least not on purpose. We'll call this section the grind, and at a glance, AutoMATA way more of these trophies than Replicant does. You see, a lot of Replicant's trophies are for defeating bosses in a certain time limit. And while sure, you probably won't do this on your first run for most of the bosses, by the time you're on your last playthrough, you'll be a much higher level, and you'll be skipping cutscenes, which reduces time as well, so it'll be a lot easier than earlier. Both games have miscellaneous combat trophies, which are not difficult at all if you're actually making a concerted effort to go for them, so I'm not going to go really in depth in them, because that would just take up time. There is also one trophy in Replicant where you have to mix flowers until you get a white flower. This one's a pain because it's real world time gated, so I think it's like a day to get to each stage of the flower, and it does take a while. I do think you can mess with your console clock to make it, you know, just cheat to get it, but I didn't do that because it wasn't necessary because I still had other trophies to do, and it worked out fine. Oh, also both games have fishing that you need to do for the platinum. I think it takes longer in Replicant, but they both have fishing, so 10 out of 10, best games ever made. As I said, at a glance, AutoMATA has way more completionist trophies, like doing 80% of quests, archives, chips, and so on and so forth. In Replicant, you only have to clear 30 quests and get half the words, which are randomly dropped from enemies, so there's a lot less to do. Yeah, AutoMATA has way more, but for both games, a lot of this stuff is in static locations, such as the archives and whatnot, and quests, they're not difficult, but even if they were, you can look up guides and stuff. I'm not going to list all the quests and the requirements and everything, because that's not what this video is about. Look it up yourself, it's not going to take too long. I guess I'll briefly touch on the other endings for AutoMATA, as they're pretty easy and mostly involve just wandering off instead of following the story. Big exception to this is Ending Y, which is also the only missable ending, as side quests don't respawn once completed. Thing that sucks about it is, if you don't know about it and you're not specifically going it, you are very unlikely to get it, and then you've got to replay hours. I'm going to say at least 40 hours, 30 to 40 hours, and no one wants to do that. You know what? If you accidentally did this and missed the ending and then used the trophy shop to get the ending trophy, you specifically can feel slightly less bad than other people who abused it. Because, you know, this is kind of unfair. I kind of get it. No one wants to replay 40 hours because they missed one thing. You know what? Yeah, you're a good person still. Something you may have noticed if you're familiar with these games is I haven't mentioned weapons and all, and well, if you've tried to platinum them, you know where this is going. Without further ado, let's talk about the worst trophies in both of these games, max leveling all the weapons. / pods for AutoMATA specifically. Let's start with AutoMATA, speaking of. Now, the one positive is that the majority of the materials can be bought from various shops in the game. In fact, don't quote me on this, I think everything except the gadgets and the power-up parts in all 3 of their variants can be bought from the various shops. This is a great thing. Power-up parts are in static locations, so can be googled, so it's a hassle, but it's not too difficult mostly. No, the issue is the gadgets. If you Google the gadgets, you will see many posts from many people on many websites complaining about the low drop rates, and yeah, they're pretty damn bad. I'm actually going to be helpful here instead of just complaining about it. First, use the scanner. Scanner locations, hidden items are completely static. The item you get will always be a gadget if it's a gadget there, so you can look up the locations for where to find the gadget. I used this GameFAQs post, which I'm showing on screen now, and it was very useful for finding these. Tip number 2, if you have the DLC, use it. Round 3 of the Forest Arena can give the 2nd and 3rd tier of the gadgets, which was insanely useful. So yeah, Nier AutoMATA's item farm is not ideal, however, it is a grand old time compared to the absolute hell that is upgrading 33 weapons in Replicant. From what I can tell from just looking online, there's no official information anywhere on the drop rates, but that's because they're far too goddamn low. There's a lot of confusion as well regarding some people thinking that the increased drop rate item actually decreases the chance of getting certain items, like the goddamn full-on necklace or the subdued bracelet. Bet I brought a few of you back just then. Genuinely don't understand why the drop rates are this bad. It's not hard, it's not fun, it just takes far too long. And yes, I know theoretically you could just get lucky and get what you need without needing to farm at all, but I am not that lucky, you're not that lucky, no one is that lucky, and if you are that lucky, please give me some of that luck, thank you very much. Believe it or not though, there are actually some things you can do to make this trophy easier. While you need to max 33 weapons, there are actually 38 in the game if you include the DLC weapons. This means that you can actually skip some of the weapons with the worse, harder to get drops, but you can't avoid all the hard drops. There's still too many, I think, that you need to do. So to answer the title of the video, almost entirely just because of the drop rates, Nier Replicant is the harder platinum, and honestly, after doing both, it wasn't close. But however, there is one last thing to note. The original release of Nier for the PS3 has mostly the same trophies as Replicant, but doesn't have the DLC that makes the weapon grinding easier, so in actuality, Nier PS3 is the hardest, and no, I haven't platinumed this one, and no, I don't have any desire to. Doing Replicant was enough. And that's the video. Do you agree that Replicant, or I guess Nier PS3 is the harder one? You know, I'm just going to call it Nier 1. Did you use the trophy shop in AutoMATA like a bad person? Not sure I want to know the answer to that one. Most important though, have you also suffered through the item farming in Nier Replicant? I feel your pain. Let me know all that in the comments, and while you're down there, press the subscribe and the like and that button for more trophy videos. Thanks for watching, hunt them tropes, and I'll see you next time.